Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on Basecone working with Xero, where I hope to show you a little bit about the Basecone solution and how automated real-time data entry can support your efficiencies within your outsourcing or accounts department alongside the platform that is Xero. So today we're going to show you a little bit around the introduction to digital document automation and explain what Basecone is, because I'm sure there's many of you on the call that may have potentially only heard about Basecone recently. We'll go through the key features and I will show you in a live demonstration of how this works with Xero, because after all, if we are looking at real-time processing, we need to show you a live demo so you can see just how quickly and efficient this will make you in your accounts department. As I go through the software, I will try and point out some tips and tricks that will help you hit the ground running, and we'll open the floor up to some Q&A at the end of the session as well, and hopefully we'll get through as many of those questions as possible. So put your thinking hats on, get typing away in the chat, and I'll run through those at the end. So a little bit about Basecone and where we come from with our automated document processing. You will have heard of it as invoice management processing. The main thing that we're trying to get across from this is, as you're using more and more cloud platforms, the benefit of adding Basecone onto that solution will allow you to become more efficient, because you can process your invoices, whether they be sales and or purchase invoices, directly via Basecone, directly into Xero. If you are an accountant, we do work with other platforms as well, which I'll cover a little bit later, but today we're prominently focusing on Xero. By doing the processing via an automated solution like Basecone, that will help you control your workflow. Now, we all know 2020 has been a tough year. Many of us have been in lockdown, many offices have been closed, and also your clients' businesses have been closed as well. But that shouldn't affect the way that we process purchase invoices unless we're still working with old manual paper-based systems. So by introducing a solution like Basecone, that will enable you to become more efficient and control your workflow and ultimately your cash flow for your business. Everything with Basecone is in the cloud. It's always been cloud. When it was launched 7 years ago, it was a cloud solution. It hasn't come from historic desktop solutions, which enables us to be agile and connect with other solutions such as Xero. The system itself has its own built-in archiving system. So if you imagine your filing cabinets within your office, if you're not in your office, you're probably going back into your memory and remembering what those look like, but definitely you will have folders of information that contain purchase invoices. And should anybody need to see copies of those purchase invoices, it is a nightmare to go and find them. But Basecone will give you that automated process where you can go and find information from your archive just by typing in a few small details. And I'm sure you'll like that feature. It's built up with automated booking rules, or posting rules as you might know them. These come from your accounting applications but can be built on from within the Basecone application itself. Basecone has the ability to write into Xero as well as receive information from Xero, and that's the benefit of having an open API between the two platforms. We give your business intelligence back about the data flow. Now, if you're only using Basecone for your own business, you may be able to manage that workflow of documents in and out. However, if you add some of our additional features, such as authorization, you will need to look at your workflows to see where those invoices are at prior to you then pushing them through for payment and again, managing your cash flow. So I'll show you where we have a workflow process. The authorization for Basecone is really, really easy, and at these times when we maybe can't get into the office and we do need approval on purchase invoices prior to pushing those for payment, What better than having a mobile app so you can authorize while you're on the move or indeed sat on your sofa in front of the TV. So we'll show you those as well today. So why Basecone? We love it at Wolters Kluwer, but how do we get you guys to love it as well? It's automated real-time data entry. This is one of the strengths of the solution. If you're working on bookkeeping, you want to continue working on bookkeeping. You don't want to put the job down and wait for the application to recognise and push the data back. That's why Basecone is different, because everything that it processes will be there and ready for you to book into the accounting software immediately. Using posting rules, it will help you create that flawless booking process and enable you to automate that process as best as you possibly can. It's 100% cloud, so wherever you are, whether it be submitting documents, pushing those out for authorization, you can use them as long as you have an internet connection, with most of us have by now. You have full control over your document workflows. You can prevent invoices being paid without that prior approval, should you decide to switch the approval process on. And as I mentioned before, we have this full document archive, which I will show you. The documents in Basecone will be stored in the cloud for 10 years. If you wanted to take the data out, we can of course provide you with copies of all of that information, but indeed you can download individual invoices directly from the archive yourself. So now for a live demonstration. So I'm just going to exit out of the PowerPoint presentation and go into my Google Chrome, where I have Basecone open alongside Xero. So let's just refresh and make sure this is still logged in. And it is. So we'll start at the Wolters Kluwer website, which is where you went to log in and create a registration for this webinar. So thank you for doing that. We have a page exclusively focused on Basecone that may contain all of the answers that you are looking for, but hopefully I'll try and answer those as we go through today. So firstly, you can sign up for a free trial. So if you like what you see today, by all means, click on Start Free Trial. You get a 14-day free trial of Basecone. And if you're wanting to know how to connect that to your Xero application, if you click onto the knowledge base, you'll get full online support that will manage that through. We also run a weekly webinar on a Friday, so if you have any questions, you can speak directly to the sales team on that webinar and they will help you get up and running as smoothly as possible. We have some information around accountants, SMEs, the different products that we have for Basecone. All of the pricing information is contained on our website as well, so you should have anything that you need answered there. Of course, the reason for coming to the website could be to click on the login box to go to the software. Now, because this is a web application, of course, you can save your shortcuts along your menu bar, so you don't need to go to the Wolters Kluwer website all of the time, or indeed save a shortcut to your desktop that will enable you to get straight into Basecone. So I'm now in the Basecone application. We have a menu down the left-hand side, which is collapsible. So as I point at it, it will open up. If I move away, it closes down, so it's never taken up too much screen time. The menu itself is customized to the type of user that I am. So I am a super user that enables me to show everybody everything within the application whilst I'm doing a demonstration. When you add users, you define what sort of user they are. So it could be that they're purely allowed to come into Basecone for approval processes, or it could be that they manage a workload matrix, so how the document flows throughout the system, or maybe they go in there just to use it for the archive to find old invoices that you may have processed in a speedy manner. But at all times, you are in full control. So your first user is your super user, and then you use the settings within Basecone to add additional users and companies into your own secure environment. So this will only ever contain the companies that you invite in. You will see that I have 3 companies available to me as a user. So I have one connected to Sage, one to Twinfield, and I have one connected to Xero called Mango Bar, which is the client that we are focusing on today. Within my Mango Bar client, you will see that I have a red circle with a number 1, signifying that there is one document waiting for processing right now into Xero. But how did it get there? So let's cover that. Under Mango Bar, you will see that I have an email address. This email address is unique to this client, and I would recommend, and this is one of my top tips, that you give this email address to all of your suppliers. Thereby, they will be able to send you your purchase invoices directly into this virtual plastic in tray for you to process across into Xero straight away. Of course, if you still get paper-based invoices, you can either use your scanner within your office to scan it to an email address or to a folder location, and then using this giant icon here, you can bring new files into your inbox, which is what I'm going to do now. And we can either bring multiple invoices by clicking on multiple invoices, or individual ones directly into the system by just selecting them from that file. The third way is to use our mobile phone to capture while we're out and about. And we can do this for invoices as well as creating expense claims. So on our mobile phone, we can use the Basecone application to capture and send invoices and expenses directly into the Basecone solution from the mobile phone. We can also tag them, and tagging will tell it what sort of invoice it is. So if it is a purchase invoice or if it's an expense claim, should it be repaid to an individual employee, you can do all of that directly from your mobile phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those new invoices that I've added by clicking on the select all option at the top. I'm going to remove the first one because this has already been tagged, so Basecone knows it's a purchase invoice. It's got a tag that says P&V next to it. Yet all of these below it, it doesn't know what sorts of documents they are. So at this point, I just click on the tagging option for purchase invoice. The other options that are there are SLS for sales invoice, and also we have a customizable tab in case you want to save things in the archive and not actually book them across into Xero. So you can use it as a small document management solution, maybe for lease documents, for legal documents that you want to keep hold of. At this point, it asks me, do I want to push these invoices into a workflow? Now, I'm going to ignore that and move on to the confirm button. But what this would do was enable me to push all of those invoices out for authorization and approval before pushing them into the Xero application. So they would come back into my mailbox here. Now it looks like all of the invoices have disappeared. What's actually happening is the system is going through its optical character recognition or OCR process, and it's reading each individual invoice, which roughly takes about a second per invoice, and preparing them so they're ready to be posted or booked across into Xero automatically. So if I just refresh, you'll see a couple of seconds and we have all of the documents back there and available now for booking. Now I can either start at the top of the list one by one and click on to book, or I could actually go to my third icon down on the left hand side called validation overview, where we can validate bulks of invoices at the same time. Now this system works on a traffic light system. So down the left hand side of your screen, you'll see lots of amber circles, which signifies to me that there's incomplete information on the invoice, therefore it's not ready to be posted to Xero. However, the more you use the system, the more it will learn, the more it will automatically put those posting rules such as description and account code in, enabling you to automate this workflow. So if you saw any invoices with a green circle next to them, you can simply select those invoices and book them straight across into Xero in one fell swoop. What we're going to do though is we're going to have a look at the invoices and see what information is actually missing and how we actually set that up within the system as if we were a first-time user. So we click onto details, and it will go into the first invoice. Now this time, the image is on the left-hand side of my screen, and on the right-hand side of my screen, I can see all of the posting information. When we process invoices into Xero, I have asked it to process them through as draft invoices, unless they're going into an approval process, and then it will show in Xero as for approval. So if I just go to Xero, just so I can explain where this area is that you might want to watch. So we have business, bills to pay, and in here, we have a folder that is empty for draft at the moment, and we also have an empty folder for awaiting approval. So these are the two areas where I'm going to send the invoices from Basecone to in Xero. So from Basecone, this is what it's picked up. You'll notice there's nothing in the supplier field, and when I click in the supplier box, it's just given me a long list of suppliers that potentially exist within my Xero company. So I need to add a new supplier. So let's click on the little black box with a plus in, and we need to type in the supplier details. So this business is called McKay, and I'm going to give it the supplier details of Mac01. What I might want to do within here is put some unique information such as the postal code, and therefore Xero and Basecone will work together in synergy to enable me to recognise this invoice the next time it sees it. If you don't have any of this information in your Xero system at the moment, don't worry, because if you add it in here and click on to save, it will write that supplier information straight back into Xero for you. The next element I need to enter is the account code or the general ledger code. I need to tell it what this invoice is relating to. So it's consultancy services, that might be marketing. So let's just start typing in here what this was related to. You also have your tracking IDs from Xero in here if you need to break down further where you would like that invoice processed to for your accounting purposes. You will notice that Basecone has automatically recognised the amount excluding VAT, which VAT rate it was, and what the VAT total was, so I don't need to enter that in. In the description field, I could either key that in. However, Basecone has a lovely tool, and you may have seen this previously, but I bring my mouse over onto the invoice, I roughly highlight the information that I want to copy, and I simply click in the description field and it will copy that across for me. If it was multiple lines, I would have an additional line in here and I can break the information down further if I so wish. So for this invoice, I'm going to send it straight across into Basecone. I won't put it into an authorization queue. I can save all of the details, and that way it will remember McKay is always processed to advertising and marketing for the next time that it sees the invoice. And I can do that simply clicking on the drop-down menu to say book and save the posting rules. So the more you use it, the more it knows. Now if I jump back into Xero, you'll see I've still got Xero draft items because I just need to refresh my screen, and you will see instantaneously that invoice is now in Xero, and I could use the approval process in here if I wanted to, but as well as the posting, I also get a copy of the Xero image as a PDF, and also, and most importantly, I can go to the Basecone invoice, which gives me the document timeline which proves to HMRC the journey that this invoice has taken. So each individual user has touched it, when it was received into the system, and so on. So let's do that again, but this time I'm going to process this in for approval. This looks like quite an expensive bill for the Carphone warehouse. You will notice on the right hand side, it's recognised the date, the invoice number. The supplier is the Carphone warehouse. It's done this by the information that I have in here, such as the VAT number or the postal code. The account code, it doesn't know where to push this to, so let me just look for telephone within that. And I could break it down into a department should I have departments set up. The description is it's 10 HTC Desire cell phones, so let's just drop that in. And because of the value of the invoice, I might want to get approval on this before I process it into the full payment in Xero. So what I'm going to do is I am going to jump into the authorizer option at the top. So like the Big Brother eyes across the top of our screen, I'm simply going to select that I want this to go to my user Louise Flux. We can also have approval processes set up automatically. So every time an invoice would come to the Carphone warehouse, it would automatically go to the IT department or the finance director for approval. Or we could say every time we have a Carphone warehouse invoice that was over a certain value, it has to go within this workflow. So you can set these approval processes up in the background in the system as well, so you don't have to think about it. I'm now going to click on to book. So it will appear in Xero. However, it needs to be approved prior to me paying for it. So if I quickly jump across to Xero again, let's go back to our bills to pay. And we will see that we have an item waiting for approval within there. So I can see it for all intents and purposes on my accounts. However, I'm not going to accidentally put this into a payment run until it has been approved. And exactly the same process within here, where we can drill down onto the invoice, see the PDF image on the left-hand side when that comes through. We can also go through to the Basecone image and we can see this process that's been outlined again. We can also download and print it at that point if we want. So this is my own mobile phone, so I'm just going to put in my PIN code. Obviously if I lose my mobile phone, I don't want anybody logging in to my Basecone company. I can use facial recognition and also thumbprint as well, and all the latest technology for Basecone if I wanted to. I can also switch between the different companies that I have set up within here as well, so I can see what's going on within each of the companies. So Mango Bar, if you remember, was the Basecone company that I'm working on. So imagine right now I've gone from being in the accounts department to the FD of the business, and I need to approve that invoice for those mobile phones. So I'd simply click on the number one. You can see the invoices there. If I wanted to see greater detail on there, we use all of our standard mobile phone technology. So I can click onto the invoice. I can use my little fingers to pinch in. If I need to see further information, I could do that. Look around the edge of the screen right here. You will notice some additional icons. So in the top right-hand corner first, this shows me the approval list. So if there were 3 people in the approval chain, I would see their names with ticks next to them once they've approved the invoices. I can also change the authorizer. So I'm sat in front of the TV and I decide actually this isn't for the FD, this is for the IT partner to authorize. I know nothing about it. So I could change the authorizer and send it to someone else. Let's not do that because I'm going to approve it myself shortly. I can also put comments on there. So I can say, thanks, Diane. I don't know. Please pay. And send that back to the accounts department as well. And that will retain against the image for the lifetime of that image. In the bottom right hand corner, if I am interested, I can see the full document details. This is really important because this explains to me as a finance director where this is actually being processed to within the account system. So I'll be able to identify any issues such as, is it being posted to the wrong period within my accounting system? Is it being posted to the correct general ledger account? Is there a project or cost center analysis that should have been in there that's not in there? And of course, I could use those comments to go back to the accounts department and let them know. At the bottom of our screen, we have a cross, we have a tick, and we have a pause. So this is to approve, reject, and hold invoices. We can use the buttons or we can swipe. So if we swipe right, we're approving. If we swipe left, we can reject. If we swipe to the bottom, we can skip. So that's putting it on hold, which is basically let me go and find more information out and then I'll come back to it later on, but I might want to move on to the next invoice. So I'm just going to swipe right to approve, and if any of you are wondering, yes, it is based on a popular dating app and we have had that functionality for quite some time now, but I'm sure you'll agree it's really, really simple and easy to use. So let's go back to Basecone and Xero, and let's look in Xero first, and we can see that we have an invoice awaiting approval within here. And this is interesting because there's somebody actually doing the demonstration at the same time as me. And this is for the Smart Agency, which is a completely different invoice. But what I'm going to do is go into those that are awaiting payment, and I could show you the documents that are awaiting payment and pick up the one that I have just approved, which was for the Carphone Warehouse. Here it is, £6,000, and I can see that invoice within here, all ready to go now. And if we looked at the Basecone link, that would give me my document timeline within here as well. And you can see today's time and date stamp on there, and also the comments saying please pay. So that's now moved that into the payment option. It's about as real time as you can get it when you've got two people working in the same company on your demo environment. And you'll notice that Callum has now processed his invoice during his demo as well. So it is really real time. And at any point, I can jump back into Basecone. I can use the archive system to go and find all of those invoices. So if I wanted to go to archive, and this is where I said to you, imagine it's like your filing cabinets. You can see obviously the last invoice that I processed within here, but there's a whole load of other invoices within here as well. So we can either look for certain suppliers, so I could search for Amazon, and I can see a load of invoices in here for Amazon, and I can simply either drill down, download, print, see the full document timeline within that, and it's a lot quicker looking in the archive here than a filing cabinet within your own office. Okay, now while I've still got the mobile app, let's see if I can go back now and show you the Capture app. Okay, let's get back to the home screen whilst we're connected, and let's go into our Capture app now. Okay, so you'll see this is called Spencer. In the new year, we will have one app for Basecone. That app will be there for Capture and also approval, so we won't need to log into different apps. So you see this one slightly different to the approval because it is all about capturing while you're out and about on the move. So let's get on and do that. So we just click onto our plus. We can use our camera, gallery or PDF. So I'm going to use my camera. You're now going to see how dusty my desk is. Well, I just hold over the top of that invoice and it takes a picture for me. It asks me for a description. So this was motor expenses. Yes, I have actually spent some motor expenses this year on getting an MOT, I think it was. Expenses. And the payment method defines what sort of invoice it is. So if it's a business payment, it's an invoice. If it's a private payment or a credit card payment, it's treated as an expense claim. So let's click onto business payment. It drops in to say that it's purchase invoice, and I could then change that to sales invoice at this point. I'm going to put in some information, potentially to say, you know, what it was related to, brake pads, pool car, something like that. Okay. When I'm happy with that, I can either click on save if I'm not connected to the internet, or I could just click onto send, and that will send that straight through to Basecone for me. So that's how we capture an invoice. We can also capture expenses. So that motor expense could actually go on my expense claim as well if I wanted to. So exactly the same process. We just hover over the top of the invoice. It will take the picture. That's Basecone taking the photograph, not me. And let's just put those through as brake pads. And the payment method will say this time it's a private payment, which will drop me into creating an expense claim. So I can either add it to an expense claim or add a brand new one in here. So let's say November, create. And then I'm just going to put the amount that the invoice was. So it's £24, and the category it goes against is motor expenses. Now, by selecting a category in there, it will know what the general ledger or nominal code is it needs to be posted against. Now, rather than click on send, I'm going to click on save, because now we have an expense claim that I can continue to build upon. So if I had something else, I could just simply click onto the add button, and take a picture of whatever the next item is. So this happens to be food. So it could be a meeting, it could be anything really. So it was £67.85. I can change the date, but I'm going to put this under food and drinks. Click on to save, and it's now added that to my expense claim as well. Once I'm happy with all of that, I simply click on to send, and it will send that expense claim across into the web app, and I can process it in exactly the same way. So let's go back to the web app now. Let's just refresh our screen within here, and we can see we've got motor expenses, which was the invoice that I processed straight in there. It's come through as a purchase invoice because it was tagged on the phone app. So this is my image. We've also got an expense claim called November, and you can see all of the employee ID. So you get like a cover sheet, and then you've got your 2 items. And as I click through the pages, you can see exactly all of the detail that is on this invoice. So again, we just tag that as a purchase invoice, and at this point I could send it for approval prior to booking it into the accounting system, so if I needed a manager to check it before, I could do that. So let's just click on to confirm, and then we've got all of our invoices there and ready to go. So there's some additional things that you can actually do within the Basecone system, such as merging documents, splitting documents, and so on. So let's take a multi-page invoice, bring this into the system, and I'll show you how that works, because before now we've just concentrated on single page entries. So the last one on here is a 3-page item. I can see on my page is the number 3. I can also see a pair of scissors here. I can scroll between the pages over on the right hand side, and then what I could do if they were 3 individual invoices is simply click on to split. Now with some systems that are on the marketplace, you will need to download that, split it, and then re-import it into the bookkeeping system. Not with Basecone. You simply click on split per page, click on to split, and that will break that into 3 separate invoices for you. And my favourite option in here is the merge, so when we bring it back together. Because if you've ever worked with a scanning device within your office, sometimes they can get a little bit excitable and snatch pages into the wrong order, so we need to reorder those. So we could have a 3-page invoice here that we need to merge. And we can click on the tiny little thumbnails on the left hand side, make those bigger on the right, and then we can reorder the invoices so that we're actually in the right order, and then click on the merge button and it will bring those back together for you. So all of that can be done within the Basecone platform. No need to go to a further party. As I said, you can also process things as customizable, so you can bypass them going into the accounting application. But if you do process them into the accounting application, I'm sure you can see within here, they will be there for the lifetime of the document. So whatever report it is that you're looking at, whatever transaction it is that you're looking at, you can always go back to the Basecone invoice. And also you can do exactly the same on the Basecone system. So the final thing just to look at in here is your workload matrix. If you're working on multiple companies, it's quite easy with 3 to see what's going on. But if you've got hundreds within there, as some of our customers have, you might want to look at that in a different view. On this workload matrix, what you can see is exactly where all of the invoices are within each of the individual customers or companies that you've got set up within here. You can see total items to be tagged, those that are out for authorising before booking, those that are awaiting booking into the accounting application, those that have been booked, and those that are awaiting to be authorised after booking. If at any point you need to go to those invoices because maybe somebody is off sick or not responding, you can redirect those invoices to someone else for approval in order to get those approved. So we can just change the approval process and push that straight back out for approval within there. So on our workload matrix, we can really control the workflow of our purchase invoices from Basecone. So I think that's given you a good overview. Hopefully it's given you a good overview of the Basecone system and how we feel this brings benefit to the system that you might be using at the moment if you've just got Xero in there for your accounting application. What we do with Basecone as well is we don't charge per number of users that you have within the system, or documents that you process. So there's no tokens needed in here. You just pay simply on the number of companies that you want to process invoices for into Xero. And that enables you to understand exactly where the cost is going to fall for you and plan obviously for the future in this current climate. It is true cloud software, so you're only ever in a 30-day license period as well, and we can switch that off at any point. As I said, give it a go. You've got your free 14-day trial, which I hope you'll all take advantage of, and you can connect that directly to your accounting system and hopefully start to see some of the benefits. So just to close before we get on to questions, I'm going to jump back in to the PowerPoint presentation and we'll just recap. So Basecone itself is real time, it's efficient, it's effortless, it works very closely with all of the rules that you've predefined and created within Xero. It gives you seamless collaboration and a secure document storage in the cloud for 10 years. It's real-time processing, everything that we've seen today, including the little glitches between getting a mobile phone to share. It's real-time, it's live software. You've seen it being processed in real time today. I think the workflows will help with efficiency. It certainly helps with the control of your workflow, but also it will help with your cash flow as well. And using posting rules will have the automated recognition and coding of your documents ready that they can be processed straight away in a bulk fashion into the accounting application. The more you use it, the more it learns. I've shown you the apps. Finally, I managed to get those shown on screen, which I do love. So at the moment, we have two apps, one for approval and one for capture. Moving forwards in the new year, we will have one single place to go, one app, and that will be for both approval and capture, which hopefully will be helpful. So if you are happy, you've got any questions, by all means drop those questions in the chat now and we'll get around to answering those. Have a look at the trial. If you are a CCH customer already using accounts production, taxation, have a look in your mail. We have sent you an email recently regarding Basecone. It's an offer that you probably want to take up with us. If you want to be introduced to any existing customers, with plenty of those that are happy to speak to you as well as case studies and videos that will help you articulate this solution to other members of your team. I thank you very much for your attention and for sticking with the webinar, and I look forward to seeing any questions coming through. Okay, so I've got a question here about archive and viewing multiple companies. Okay, so luckily in my demo system, I do have those multiple companies set up, as you will have seen, so I can quickly show you that. So yeah, it's really useful. So if we head to the archive facility within Basecone, so at the moment I am only looking at Mango Bar, which was our Xero company that we've used, but you simply click on the drop down menu across the top, so that would enable you to go into your different companies that you might want to search for. And whilst I'm in it, yes, I can answer that question about other integrations. So we do have other integrations for Basecone. The ones that I've got linked here, we've got Xero, we've got Twinfield. Twinfield is a Wolters Kluwer product. It's our online accounting solution. If you've not heard of it before, we've also got connection with Sage switched on my demo machine, as you've just seen. We also link with Exact in the UK. There are other connections. They tend to be more European-wide, like Unit 4, Visma, but we connect with as many as we possibly can at this current time. Basecone is a very popular product across the Wolters Kluwer solutions. We'll continue to build out new integrations. Okay, so the next steps, if you want to get in touch with us, we've got all the details to connect with us on screen. You can also, drop me a message should you need to. Sorry, I've just seen another question come up. Okay, so that's quite a nice question, actually. We're already a very happy Basecone customer, but use twin fields, and you appear to have additional functionality regarding authorization. Can this be set up for another approver? So it effectively just puts an invoice on hold. Yes, you can do that. So Ruth, I can get in touch with you or get Callum to give you a call afterwards, and we can run you through how that would work for you on the approval. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining us. Please stay connected with us for more insights and more of these webinars. Thank you.